apparently I'm a content creator now. And apparently I'm so starved for content that I went out this spring and crashed my Vespa to give me something to repair. It was pretty stupid, as all accidents tend to be. I was trying to sneak my way past the traffic calming measure by going through the gap meant for two-wheeled vehicles. But I must have been taking it too fast, because I managed to tip over on my way out of the gap, which thankfully didn't harm anyone but me. The damage was pretty minor in the scheme of things. I had a few bumps and bruises and a sore ankle for a couple of days, and annoyingly my brand new raincoat got a bit of road rash. But I couldn't bear to look at the Vespa and see what the damage was until a few weeks later.
The most obvious damage was to my chrome railings. I guess they proved their value by sacrificing themselves to most of the damage, with the front right rail being bent completely out of shape. The spot that suffered the next most was the main side of the bike, which got pretty dented and scratched up. The rear railing was a little bent too, but not dramatically. And then there was also a scrape on the front wing, under where the chrome took the brunt of the fall. After checking it out for physical damage, I also found it didn't want to start up either. This bike has always had a weird habit of the engine flooding really easily, and the fall could have conceivably caused that a bit. So I took the spark plug out and let the combustion chamber air out for a few days while I pondered what to do.
I eventually decided that because the Vespa was 13 years old,
And that's 3 years older than my first Vespa was when death did us part for the third time,
and probably wasn't worth as much to anyone else anymore, that I didn't really have much to lose from attempting to do the repair job myself.
I had a look around the internet for small amounts of matched paint. It turns out that it's pretty easily available, but the branding on the cans is all a bit dubious, because the cans are just filled by entrepreneurial body shops who I guess are trying to target a more aspirational market with their DIY body repair resources. I got my colour matched though, an inch closer to actually trying to repair the bike. A kind viewer of a past video left a recommendation for a DIY spray can mixer he had seen on a channel called 65 Ford. So I thought I'd give something similar a go. I made mine out of a piece of postal tube and did some more upsetting looking cutting on my table saw to make a plug for the bottom, which seemed to go alright. I was really sceptical of this internet colour match, so I wanted to test it before committing to the job on my bike. I grabbed a scrap of steel that I cleaned all the rust from and began going through the motions with the paint. Primer, then colour layer, then clear coat. Out in the workshop I was convinced that they had just sent me a closest non-metallic as a good enough match. And so, drips aside, I was completely shocked when I brought it out into the sunshine and saw how good it actually looked. It actually looked like the colour of my bike. Meanwhile, back at the bike, the battery had also died from when I was struggling to get it started. So I took the battery out and plugged it into Selmar Bouvier for a day, as was recommended by the charger. I popped the spark plug and the recharge battery back in, and it started first time. So it was a relief that there wasn't anything mechanically wrong with the bike after all. The rear chrome rails were easy enough to encourage back into position, so I returned my attention to the cosmetic damage, starting with the dent. I had a grope around under the seat and found I could feel the other side of the impact point, so after trying a couple of other ideas, I rounded off the ends of a scrap of dowel to tap it back out. And that ended up working about as well as I could have hoped. I let a few weeks pass, but I eventually plucked up the courage to start on the paintwork. I decided the best place to start would be the scratch under the front wing, as that would be hidden under the chrome railings if my first attempt went really poorly. It took a surprising amount of courage to start attacking my beloved Vespa with abrasive paper. But once I started, it took way less effort than I'd expected to get it back to bare metal. The scratches here proved to be pretty deep, so I put some body filler in, which I'm now fully convinced is exactly the same stuff as the wood filler I use all the time in the workshop. And that sanded up really nicely. I gave the area a proper clean. I probably should have done the whole bike before I even started, but I was really worried about water getting into the scratches and causing their own set of problems before I started on the repairs. And then I masked the area off to begin painting it. I had watched loads of videos about bodywork repair at this point, and I understood the principle of keeping the repair area small and restricting it to seams and creases in the bodywork to make any slight mismatches less noticeable. Cleaning up drew my attention to a rust spot in the area where I was respraying, so I thought I'd better sand that out while I was at it. And when that was done, I could finally put some primer down. After doing a pair of coats of the primer, I sanded the edges of the new paint to blend it a bit better. And then I did the colour coat. I tried to make a little pocket for the paint to blend up to the seam based on some of the videos I'd watched. But once I put a layer of clear coat on, I could see this was a mistake. It didn't blend subtly going up to the seam in the way I was hoping. I would have been better off just leaving a sharp mask line going straight across the seam. It also drew my attention to another rust spot right there, so I took a deep breath, sanded that out and repainted it all again. It ended up looking pretty good. It was maybe a little orange peely, but the internet told me that effect could be caused by too much paint, not enough paint, too much humidity, not enough humidity, and an incorrect air paint mixture. So I decided I didn't have much I could effectively control about any of that and moved on. I gave the new paint a little sanding with some really fine papers, then while I was polishing it, I had my first taste of a recurring lesson on this project. Every time I thought I could make a good result a little bit better, I'd end up making some other part of it a little bit worse.
What happened there?
In this case, I managed to polish a nice scuff into my new paintwork, so I decided to move on, accepting that it looked better than the original scrape did. That made it time for the main course, which was redoing the side panel. The lower fairing was removed easily in theory only. After removing the screw and the poppers, I just couldn't get the end attached without removing the chrome. So I ended up just swinging it out of the way and leaving it hanging. I did my best to peel away the badge on the side without damaging it, which also didn't go very well. Tapping the dent out drew my attention to the cracks in the paintwork around the damage. This taught me there was already filler under there, and meant that it all needed sanding back to bare metal to remove the stuff that had cracked. The filler was there from a surprisingly similar accident I had just after I got this bike about 12 years ago, where I was filtering through traffic at a slow speed and managed to clip the curb on a traffic island. I had it repaired professionally as the bike was effectively brand new at the time of the accident. It took ages to sand back their repair, even when I brought in electrical assistance. Eventually, I had sanded my way through all of the scraped paint and cracked filler, and I was ready to put some more filler in myself to try and get the bodywork back into shape. After a second coat of filler and some more sanding, I thought I'd fared it pretty well. So I cleaned it and masked it all, ready for a bit of primer. I intended on using the primer as a bit of a guide coat to see how bad it actually looked, and after giving it a light sanding, I was actually pretty impressed with my filling job. I did find one low spot that happened to be nowhere near my repair area.
I think it looks pretty good. I don't want to look a gift horse in the mouth.
But I decided that it would be a good time to respect the lesson about making other things worse when I was trying to make good even better, and I left that little dip intact. Then it was the same as before, blending out the edges of the primer, remasking along the seam of the bodywork, a couple of layers of colour coat.
This could be the point I've made it worse.
And a couple of layers of lacquer. I then left it to dry for a couple more days before bringing it back out of the garage to see what I had done. It looked a bit orange peel again. I decided to try sanding it all again, working my way through 800, 1200 and 2000 grit wet and dry paper. Then when polishing it up with some cutting compound, I somehow made the same mistake again, managing to polish a new hole into the paintwork. In a panic, I sanded it out and was thankful that it didn't go back to the metal. So I repainted it, then re-lacquered the whole panel again, which also recovered my poor sanding job. After a couple more days to dry, I inspected it again, and I wasn't really happy with the lacquer's overspray around the crease of the bodywork. This ended up leading me to try sanding and polishing all of the orange peel away again, like a sucker for punishment. But this time I managed to do it without sanding new scratches and gouges into the paintwork. And I finally seemed to understand when to stop. The bike now had earned itself a proper cleaning. I even gave all the paintwork a go-over with some allegedly waxy polish. And I polished up all of the surviving chromework too, which I hadn't done for several years at this point. It was all starting to look pretty acceptable. Fortunately for me, my dad was visiting from the Netherlands a couple of weeks earlier, so he brought me some parts to finish the job. They were much more easily available on the continent than here on Brexit Island, so it was nice that he returned the trade for the Land Rover parts that I usually collect for him to take back to the mainland. What he brought me was a new front chrome rail, which only came with a set of both sides. I figured that I may as well keep both new bits as I had them, so I got the other old rail removed. Learning that my bike had been carrying a tiny compost pile around for goodness knows how long, and I also unblocked a footwell drainage hole before getting the new rails fitted. The other part my dad brought me was a new badge for the side panel, which saved me trying to rescue the old one I made a meal of removing. The bike was finally back together and looking a lot more dignified. Frustratingly though, it wouldn't start again, and now attempting to start it killed all of the power systems on the bike, not just the starter motor. Evidently my charging only did so much to help revive the decade-old battery that was in there, so I proved that the battery was definitely the problem by getting it going with a little jump-starting kit we have. And when that confirmed it, I decided that justified purchasing a new battery for the bike. With that installed, the job was finished.
The job is very nice from far, but far from nice, as they say. If this is my usual diagram, then this project was more like this, as I kept ricocheting between thinking I was doing a better job than I expected and thinking my bike deserved better than what I was doing to it. Ultimately, I think it looks up to scratch, if you'll excuse the pun, with the rest of the 13-year-old paintwork on the bike. And when I see all the other rust spots and chips and scratches on it that I haven't addressed, I think I've actually done quite good. I think that getting a professional to do the repair that I did would have been madness without getting them to repair everything else that was wrong with the bodywork as well. And besides, I couldn't really afford to get someone to do this job at this point either. It does look way better now though. I'm really pleased that I've done it, and it was definitely way easier than the trench project. It's so good to be back on the Vespa again, now it's turning to summer in this country. Thank you for watching this video and coming along on this journey with me.